Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm talking about 3 tips to deal with relationship doubts. My guest Irina's marriage had no physical intimacy for 2 years, and they were both miserable. The marriage counselor told them they had no chance of survival and fired them as clients. But things got a lot better when Irina made a discovery and ran with it. Today, she says her marriage is exactly where she wants it to be, and every day it's getting better. The Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award goes to a t-shirt that a student saw but was too embarrassed to take a picture of in front of her husband and kids. All of that's coming up, but first, let's talk about 3 tips to deal with relationship doubts. Everybody has doubts about their relationship from time to time. Like the time I woke up sick in the middle of the night after a trip to Tijuana, and my husband's first response was, ha, ha, ha. That was our first anniversary. And I thought, what is this thing that I've married? But I had much more serious doubts a few years later, and they were so severe, I nearly ended my marriage. So I know how painful it is when you're feeling like your values just don't match, or he's engaging in behavior that you never would have condoned, or his parenting is not at all what you see your children needing to thrive. What if those doubts make you question your own judgment about saying, I do? And what if you're wrestling with those doubts multiple times a day? It's an exhausting and scary place to be. What if your marriage is a big mistake and you can't get back to the life that you should be having while you're still married? Well, then you should leave, right? But what if you leave and you devastate your husband and your kids, and you end up breaking your own heart too? What if you don't really want to leave, but you have a nagging suspicion that you should? It's a terrible quandary. And since you can't know what your life in a parallel universe where you do leave would look like, how can you really know what the right decision is? It's very tempting to jump on the fence and stay there. But doubt is the devil. It eats away at the joy and connection you could otherwise be having if you could find your faith, and it pretends that you have no choice but to suffer or leave. Here are 3 tips that will help you get off that pointy fence. Number 1, get out your magic wand. Oh, I happen to have one here with me. Here it is, my magic wand. First of all, you want to ask yourself, what would you have that you don't have now if you had a magic wand and everything in your relationship was just as you wanted it to be? Would you be getting more attention or affection, or feeling more special, or having more time to do the things that you want to do? Maybe there would be more peace and more playfulness in your marriage. Think about what experience you would be having. So not what he would do or not do, but what you would feel. Also, see if you can phrase it as a positive instead of a negative. So instead of saying, I would not have to do everything, it would be, I would feel supported and taken care of. This is important because sometimes doubt is just a feeling that you're not going to get what you want. And you can't get what you want until you know what you want. You might have been thinking about it, what you don't want, but that's not the same. That might come out as a complaint, which reinforces and grows the pain you're experiencing. So to get your butt off that pointy fence, you got to figure out what you want. Number 2, talk to your future self. In the Harry Potter books, there's a moment when Harry had to create a Patronus, a spell that he'd never done before. And he really wasn't even old enough to pull it off. So he was nervous that he wouldn't be able to do it. But then he time traveled just briefly, just a few minutes into the future, and he saw someone across the lake who looked like him create a Patronus of a stag. He thought it was his father, but then he realized it was actually him doing it. So when the moment came and he had to create his Patronus, he knew he could because he already saw himself do it. So he nailed it. Once you know what you want, you know what your intentions are, it's time to have a talk with the future you from a year from now and ask her how everything went with your relationship. Here's a spoiler alert. Everything went your way. You created exactly what you're dreaming of now, and your future self is going to tell you all about it in great detail so you can make your decisions about how you're showing up in your relationship now based on your confidence that it's all going to come out just the way you dreamed it would. But what about him? You might ask. What if he doesn't change? What if he can't change? The more important question for me is, can you change? Because when you show up differently, he responds to you differently. He responds to you so much better. When you become your best self, he will follow suit, in my experience. Number 3, find the evidence. Now, it's just a matter of gathering all the evidence you can that your dream, your intention for your marriage is true. What proof, however tiny, do you have that your marriage is becoming what you've set out to make it? Can you find 3 things or 5 today and maybe a few more tomorrow and the day after that? Because the more you focus on the evidence that you're having the experience you want to have, the more that will become your experience, in my experience. Just like Henry David Thoreau wrote, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now, put your foundations under them. That applies to your dreams about your relationship too. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest Irina's marriage had no physical intimacy for 2 years, and they were both miserable. The marriage counselor told them they had no chance of survival and fired them as clients. But things got a lot better when Irina made a discovery and ran with it. Today, she says her marriage is exactly where she wants it to be, and every day it's getting better. Irina, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you. Tremendous. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored to do this with you.
Well, you definitely have an amazing story, so I'm excited for everyone to hear it. So let's go back to what was going wrong. What was happening in the bad old days?
Yeah. So, I honestly thought that when I would get married, that my marriage would be perfect because, I'm perfect and I'm like no flaws. And so I said, I'm not going to be like my parents who hate each other and grew up like in sort of like not a happy home. And so the second I met my husband, I fell in love with him. And all of a sudden it was like, I started, criticizing and complaining and expecting things. And it was sort of a pattern with all of my relationships, and especially with my husband, because I was like, this is the guy I'm going to marry. So I need to shape him into like the best man he can be. And I didn't realize that it wasn't my job to do that. I didn't realize that I couldn't control the other person. I could only control myself. So I was on a mission to make him this perfect guy, even though he was already pretty darn perfect. And he was romantic and kind and sweet and he loved intimacy. And, he really was my hero and in every aspect. And I just thought, there are little tweaks I can make. And these little tweaks became big tweaks. And it would be like you're not putting the dishes in the right way, or, you're home 5 minutes late, or, and it would be cute, like, oh, babe, I'm so, like, I miss you. And like, no, I wouldn't say I miss you. I would say, like, you know, um, I don't want you to go to happy hour because there's so many single girls there. So it became like almost like I was critical, but I was also starting to become controlling. And I thought that it was my job. I thought that it was my job as his wife to tell him what to do, what to wear, how to eat in public, how to act, how to not crack like dad jokes and, be embarrassing. And yeah, it was just like it was a very sad time for him, because I think he started to realize that slowly I was like not that like goddess of fun and light that he fell in love with. Because when he saw me, he saw a picture of me on Facebook, and I was like in the car sitting like carefree and my hair is flowing, and he said, "This is the girl I'm going to marry." And I think after a while, he thought, like, what happened to that carefree, like chill, beautiful spirit? Like, she suddenly became like this crazed, controlling robot. And so he really had no chance.
Mm. I mean, and I get the part, I really get it. It's like, this was my job. I'm his wife. I'm supposed to make sure he's become like being his best self. I'm going to improve
Mhm.
him.
Yes,
And it probably was what you saw modeled in your family, I'm guessing.
absolutely.
Right. So how is this affecting your marriage?
Um, well, I mean, we were fighting a lot. Even I would say, even in the beginning of our relationship, even before we got married, we were bickering. We would always like go out in public, and I would always like raise my voice and, kind of reprimand him for doing something wrong or saying something wrong or doing things that didn't make me happy, because, he was in charge of my happiness. And I was convinced that it was his job to make me happy. It wasn't my job. It was his job. Like, obviously, I got a husband for that. And so now it's his job to make me happy. And he wasn't. And I had to tell him that every single time, that it was obvious. And yeah, I became, controlling, and I would criticize about little things. And I was extremely jealous, and he did not like that. And he really was so sweet, because he tried everything in his power to make me happy. But I didn't see that. I didn't see that he was, trying to make me happy and trying to like do everything in his power to, make sure that I felt confident and secure and safe in our relationship, because I wasn't acknowledging that. I wasn't grateful. I wasn't kind or compassionate. I was a nut. I was a nut job. I really was. And it wasn't because I maliciously was doing that. It was because I truly, truly believe that as a wife, it's my job to be helpful and tell you what to do and how to do it and control you and criticize you. Because if I wasn't doing it, his mom wasn't going to do it, his coworkers weren't going to do it, his boss wasn't going to do it. So how would he be perfect if he didn't have the tools that I have in my toolbox? And
Yeah.
so yeah, so it just created a distance between us. And um like over time it just became more, and we became more and more distant. I think the first 5 years of our relationship were okay, and then the next couple of years were fine. But then as soon as we had our kiddo, excuse me, it was just awful. It was absolutely atrocious, because he couldn't do anything right. He could not do what, like, this is not how you heat up milk. This is not how you swaddle him. This is, why would you do that? Like, who taught you how to do that? Like, let me teach you the right way, because you clearly have no idea, because you've never taken care of a baby. And I'm a mom, and I'm intuitive, and also I was a nanny. So clearly I'm smarter, better, and overall like 100 times like perfect than you are. And so I think over time he was just like, oh my God, this woman is a monster. And he
Mm.
kind of didn't want anything to do with me. Like he would come home and he would hide in his office, and he never wanted physical touch or intimacy. I mean, not never, but like it was very seldom. And it was just a very sad time because I needed him more than anything. We actually needed each other because my son's diagnosis was, so severe that, it was very, very scary. And um, in a time where we should have come together and held each other, we were going separate ways, and we were really living a separate life. Like you said, for 2 years where there was no physical intimacy. There was hardly any verbal communication. Like we would text each other while he was, in his office and I was on the couch in the living room. And I would say like, hey, did you give Max his juice? Or, hey, by the way, tomorrow I need to take Max to the doctor. So blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was just like a very sad time in our lives, like incredibly, incredibly sad. And I knew that something had to change.
It does sound sad, and it sounds like you were missing him, even though, and you probably didn't know why he was being so distant at the time.
No, no idea.
No. And so did you think, well, there's just something wrong with him, or?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there were times where I would think maybe he's gay because, like he doesn't want to have physical intimacy with me. And I'm a good looking girl. And like it really brought my self-esteem down and my self-confidence. I was really doubting myself. And also I thought he was, he had ADD because like, how could he forget to take out the trash? It was clearly his ADD that was doing it. And so I reprimanded him for not taking his medication. And he said, I don't need it. And I would say, you absolutely need it because the other day you put juice, out on the counter when it should have been in the fridge. Like, obviously it's your ADD. And, I would diagnose him with all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I thought he hated me. I thought he was gay. I thought he was, like he was depressed, like whatever it was. I just thought none of it was my fault. Like it's 100% on him that we have this breakdown in our marriage.
So what did you try to do to fix it?
To fix it.
Hmm.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I would like in my mind, I was doing everything that the books teach you. So I read tons of self-help books, tons. And, I've also like researched online and listened to Oprah and Dr. Phil and all that stuff. And I would sit him down on the couch and I would say, this is the things that need to change. And we need to do A, B, C, and D. And of course, 90% of it was, this is what you need to change. And then he would say, like, I will do everything, to save this marriage because I love you. And, I love our family. And he really would, entertain me. He would say like, yeah, I will do whatever you want. And then after a while, he would just go, if you're really unhappy, maybe we should just get a divorce.
Ooh.
And, and I was like, what a defeatist attitude. Like this guy's a loser. He hates me and he's a loser and he wants to give up and he's a quitter. Like, I don't want to be with him. So of course, like that's what caused like the separation and like all the disconnect. But it was like, I was trying to fix it by over communicating and telling him everything that he was doing wrong. But none of it was on me. Because of course, again, I was perfect because all the examples I had in my life, like friends and family and aunts and grandparents and neighbors and everybody was this. This is the example I grew up on. There was no other way of, I almost never saw a healthy marriage growing up because I come from like all these different cultures and I almost never saw like a good, healthy marriage. So I thought if I could just speak to him openly and calmly and tell him exactly what he needs to change, then everything will be fixed. And of course, it would be okay for like a week or two, or maybe a month. And then things would go back to normal where we hate each other, we bicker, we yell at each other, I criticize and he shuts down and he runs into his office and locks the door and, tells me like, don't talk to me. I hate you. Like, get out of my face. Like, so it was just, yeah, terrible.
And you guys went to marriage counseling too, right?
Lots. I think our whole entire relationship, we were in counseling.
Wow.
Yeah. Cause, we wanted to be prepared.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We wanted to get all the tools that are out there.
And how did that go?
It was awful. Excuse me. Our first counselor in San Francisco, she really did not want us to be together. And in fact, when we got engaged, her face was like, it was like she saw a ghost, and she really was like, oh, like she didn't know what to say because she really did not think that we were compatible at all. And we were so happy, and she couldn't even crack a smile. And then, we've gone to tons of other, I had therapy, he's had therapy, and then we've gone to counselors. And I remember this one counselor that was like, like after maybe like 2 or 3 sessions, she would say, I really think that you guys should, I really think that I could help you with your journey of an amicable divorce and separation. And we were like, we're not looking for a divorce or separation. We're here to get help. And she said, I don't believe that you could save this marriage. And I will help you to have an amicable separation and divorce. Like, so you guys are not fighting in court and ripping each other's heads off. I am here, and I was thinking like, isn't your job to bring us together and not separate us? And also we didn't want this. So why are you offering this to us? Like, so
You think, yeah.
It was, yeah. Like, so she, like, I think we said no the first time. And then the next time we came, we said, we're not going to get a divorce. We really want to make this work. And she said, then I can no longer work with you two, because I truly believe that what you guys have is not salvageable.
You're just so messed up that no one can help you. And and you're doing the wrong thing too. It's kind of the subtext there. That makes me mad. It makes me mad.
It is. Yeah. She should have a license revoked.
She 100%. Should, right? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'd love to hate bad relationship advice, as you know, and that's some of the worst. So
yeah.
Anyway, so what was the moment when you said, well, we can't go on like this?
This is so embarrassing because and I said, I'm going to be 100% honest and authentic because I want to help other women. But it's, the moment where, sorry, when, my child has an intellectual disability. So, he doesn't understand a lot of what's going on around him. And we would, bicker and fight in front of him all the time. And we just think, he's fine. Like, he doesn't know that we're upset at each other, because he really has very low understanding, or not anymore. Like, he's better now, but back in the bad old days. And I remember we were screaming at each other, and he just ran to me and he was tugging on my shirt, and he had this frightened look on his face where he was obviously becoming traumatized of the screaming and the fighting and the, toxicity that was happening in the home. And it just completely changed everything, because up to that point we were thinking, he has his headphones on, he's watching YouTube, he's all good, so we could fight all day and night and he won't ever know anything about it. But when he did that, and he was he had this terrified look on his face, and he was tugging on my shirt, and he was really almost shaking. because he had so much anxiety. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. We're either going to get a divorce and we're going to, live in separate homes, so we're not fighting and bickering, or we're going to save this marriage, and we're not going to do this to our kid. We cannot. I've had trauma. He's had trauma. We're not going to pass this down to our child. And thank God he was still, young enough, like he was under 5. So like he won't remember much of it. Thank God. And so I made it like a mission of mine to say, now that he's going to be 5, he's going to remember things and it's really going to mess him up. So I need to do something about it. And it's actually, after my sister-in-law brought me your book, The Empowered Wife, and I kind of glanced at it, I kind of read a few chapters, and I said, yeah, no, it's not for me. I'm not like, it's just not for me, because I'm, like I'm a feminist, and, I'm also like, like I can't really let a man lead, and, and have that much, what do you call it? Like decision making and respect and all that stuff, because I'm like, I need all that.
Yeah.
And I thought I was boss lady. I was wearing the pants. And so I was like, no, that's not for me. And then after that happened, that incident with my kid, I ran to my room and I read it in, I want to say like 2 or 3 days. And I was like, okay, starting today, I'm implementing every single thing that's in the book, and I'm going to save my marriage. And that was, the beginning of my journey with you.
Oh, so the heartbreak of seeing his little face being so traumatized gave you new motivation. And you already had the book. But I love the part where you say it wasn't for you, because that's just not how you were rolling at the time. It didn't seem possible that you could take it in.
Yeah.
So then you had another guest on the podcast called it the gift of desperation after that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you start doing differently than you had been doing things?
I started with just listening more. I hate saying this, but like duct taping. I know it's like, it's like so controversial, but really, like I talked my whole life and I had a hard time listening because I thought I was always right. And so when you suggested that, you like listen more and like maybe like talk less and just hear them out, I was like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. It's something that's practical and easy and it won't kill me. So if I try, then, like I'm not going to die tomorrow. So I started duct taping and I would say like, I hear you. And I would say whatever you think. And so I started restoring respect in the sense of like, of making my husband feel like he was being heard, but also that he was, making good decisions. So when I would say, I hear you or whatever you think, like he would almost like faint, because he's like, what do you mean? You usually have 1,000 reasons why I'm wrong and, and what I should be doing differently. And so he was like glowing. And of course, like all of a sudden he would come and sit next to me on the couch and say, what are you watching? Let's watch something together. And, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the beginning of our intimacy journey together. And like, it really works. And I mean, it took like 2 or 3 days. It wasn't even like 2 weeks, like some people say. It was within 2 or 3 days of me just saying like, whatever you think, and just keeping my mouth shut, like when he would suggest things or tell me, things that were bothering him or something. And I hear you. And yeah, like that's a great idea. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm a magnet. All of a sudden he wants to be next to me. It's crazy.
So it must have felt really good to feel desired again.
Yes.
After all that time. And what else? What other skills did you implement that you hadn't been doing before?
Let's see. I was huge on SFPs, which is spouse fulfilling prophecies. I was really huge on those. I was in my class, in my coaching class. I think I was the queen of SFPs, and I really, and I've always believed in like manifesting and attracting what you want in your life. And so I started saying stuff like, "You're so romantic, and you're so." you're so sweet. And like, I love how, I don't remember, but I would start like prophesy or like having prophecies of what I want him to be like. And it really worked. Like immediately within, a few days or a few weeks, like he would start buying me flowers and like gifts. And he would, ask me out on dates, and like he would call me more from work, which would never happen. He would, like, if I would call him at work, he would text me and say, I'm on a meeting. What do you need, or what do you want? And all of a sudden he would start calling me on his breaks and say like, hey, how's your day? What's up? Like, what are you doing? Like, can I bring groceries home? And, stuff like that. And I also started expressing gratitude because I did not grow up with gratitude in my home at all. Not to my sisters, not to my parents, not from them to me. Not Nobody really had the culture of gratitude in my home, and it's just a part of our culture. It's not, it wasn't like in malice or anything. It was just a part of our culture. Like people just don't do that in our culture, and so I just started saying thank you for things like thank you for taking out the trash, and thank you for doing the dishes, and thank you for waking up with Max in the middle of the night, and like thank you for working so hard. Like it would be big things and little things like thank you for buying me flowers, and thank you for making breakfast for Max, or whatever it was. Like I was really like I really loved gratitudes. I really loved spouse fulfilling prophecies. I really, but the big thing was the listening, because my husband never felt heard. And he would tell me that. He would, like, I would say, you need to express yourself when you're angry, and you need to tell me how you feel, because how am I going to know when you're upset or when you're mad, and how can I change my behavior if you never tell me what's wrong with you? And he would say, every time I try to open my mouth, you talk over me, and then you tell me how invalid my reason is and how I should not feel like that because A, B, C, and D. And so he never felt heard. So when I started, really the most powerful skill for me was restoring respect. When I started saying, I hear you, he would just be like, you do? Like, huh? What? Okay. And so he would start opening up. He would come home like glistening, like, I want to tell you about my day. Where before he would go straight to the office, close the door, wouldn't even have dinner. I think he would like either order Uber Eats or just starve to death, because he did not even want to come out of the room to get something from the fridge. So he would just sit there till like 2 a.m. And then I would go to bed and he would go to bed. Sometimes he would even sleep in another bedroom. So once I started doing that, he would come home and he would be like, oh my God, I got to tell you about this. And, like he would start opening up because he was being heard finally for the first time in his life.
Hmm. No, and it sounds like you did a great job with this listening, kind of right out of the gate. Sounds like as soon as you found the information you needed about how to do that and why you would do that, it really was something you latched onto, and that made a huge difference. It sounds like it gave you a lot of hope that
Yeah.
maybe other things could improve also.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I love the part about the spouse fulfilling prophecies also, that it sounds like you weren't feeling like he was romantic when you first started saying you're so
No,
romantic. No,
no,
not
no.
at all.
I
Did
mean,
that?
I knew that he was romantic because I had evidence of it from years prior. I had evidence of it from, first year of dating, and then second year of dating, and first year of marriage or whatever. But because he wasn't romantic for the past few years doesn't mean that he wasn't really romantic. It just means that he was feeling so lost and disrespected and desperate for that connection that he wasn't going to do anything unless I was going to give him a little push, like, hey, you're so romantic. I love when you buy me flowers. Like, I really wanted to give him that positive reinforcement, because if I wasn't going to, like, he wasn't really going to be motivated to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. You weren't going to be bringing out his best, most romantic self if you weren't going to reinforce
Yes.
that you like that. So he's finally, it feels like making you happy, it sounds like at this point.
Yes. Yes.
And what made you decide to become a coach?
Um, I'm a very stubborn person. I'm extremely stubborn. And I was, like a lot of women can do this on their own. Like there's plenty of women who can, just implement the book and do this on their own. There are some women who can hire a coach once in a while and do that with their coach. I'm somebody that constantly, I need to be a part of a community and I constantly need reminders. So the fact that, the coach program was a part of this community of like-minded women who were also empowered and dignified and are desperate to save their marriage was so appealing to me because, like I have great girlfriends, but they're not on the same wavelength as I am. They have other priorities, whether it's their kids or their career or whatever it is. And they may have great marriages already, but it's the empowered wife way for me, that I don't believe that there are any other skills in this world that are like this practical and easy to follow, and also work that they're fail proof. I tell this to people all the time. They are fail proof if you follow them accordingly, and if you do as much as possible in your relationship, like it's fail proof. And so I thought, let me just do this coach training because I was like doing a career change already. And I was like, I can be a coach. I'm personable. I'm cool. I'm, like I'm well spoken. And so why not become a coach and also save my marriage and also be a part of a community and also have cool girlfriends who I can call anytime I have a challenge, and also be with Laura Doyle and like on campus and have all this stuff available to me and all the resources in the world. Like that was so appealing, and no money, seriously, no money was going to come between me and coaching, because you cannot put a price on saving your marriage. And like, I mean, a divorce is like, so much money. And this is a fraction of that. So like I knew that if I wasn't going to do that, I might not be as accountable and as dignified and empowered as when I had a community and friends and you and the campus. So it's just very appealing to me.
I love that answer. Amazing, Irina. I love your passion for this work and
Thank
your
you.
conviction.
Thank you.
It's very inspiring. And tell us, what's your marriage like now? What's it like day to day?
It's exactly what I, like wrote in the beginning of coaching training. It's passionate, it's peaceful, it's fun, it's happy, it's lovable, it's intimate. Like it's and like every woman says, it's not perfect. And like you say this, okay? Like I love how humble and like humanizing you are when you constantly say, like, I still make mistakes, I still tell my husband how to drive, I still like try to control him in little places or disrespect him, and that's always going to happen. And a part of our, like my husband and I, part of our sort of like not agreement, but like it's like an unspoken agreement, is that we have to give each other grace. So if I disrespect him or if I'm wrong somewhere, just give me like an hour or two to just, come to my senses, and then I'll apologize to you. Like, don't demand that I apologize to you right then and there. And so, I'm sorry, what was the question? I
Well,
went on a tangent there.
what's it like now? It's not, and
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's we give each other grace, which we never used to. We, like if we don't bicker, we don't fight as much anymore. But if it happens, then I'll have to be humble and apologize. And then if he's wrong, he will, like 8 out of 10 times will apologize also. Like, and the thing is that I want people to understand this. Like, this is something that I had to come, like at the end of coach training, I had to come to terms with, because up until I was graduating, I was still convinced that this program was going to change my husband and my marriage. But the conclusion I came to is that this is a self-bettering program where once you are so happy and you do so much self-care and you are a magnet and you're a goddess of fun and light and you take care of yourself and you're happy and you're listening to music and you're just like over the top, like excited and joyous and all that stuff, like your husband will come to you and he will change and he will do everything in his power to make you happy. And so like, this is something that I had to understand for myself. This program is not to fix your marriage or to change your husband. It is to make you so incredibly happy and so incredibly dignified that you're constantly cleaning up your side of the street, whether it's with your friends. I'm constantly apologizing to my friends. I'm constantly apologizing to strangers. And I'm constantly apologizing to my husband because it's all on my paper. And what's on my paper is what I can control. And if I can clean my side of the street and make myself happy, like the apology is for me. So if I can make myself happy, then my home is happy. My husband's happy. My kid's happy. My friends are happy. My neighbors are happy. The guy at Whole Foods I yell at because he doesn't have chicken wings is happy. Everybody's happy because I'm happy. So
You
that's,
sound ridiculously happy, Irina.
I am happy. I'm so happy. I've never, and I have to tell you, like my whole like adult life, I had depression and anxiety and ADHD. And even I was even diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which I don't believe I had because I really think it was like one of those things where, I was so up and down because I wanted to be happy, but I also was acting like I wasn't. So like I was constantly going up and down. And the fact that I was able to, with this program, to cure my depression, cure my anxiety, cure my ADHD, cure my bipolar disorder, I've even had like a therapist tell me I had, borderline personality disorder or something, which is complete nonsense. But, it's just like amazing that like with these skills, I was able to become this happy person where in the past I couldn't get out of bed for 2-3 weeks at a time because I was so sad and depressed and upset. And I was so heavily medicated. And now I'm like the happiest I've ever been, no medication. And I'm
No
always smiling.
medication, none.
No medication,
So none
none.
of that applies to you anymore. You
No, absolutely
cured it
not. I
all.
think I think we're totally misdiagnosed because we don't know how to be happy. And I am on a mission with you, Laura, to end world divorce and also just get women to be happy. I want every woman to be happy. We deserve happiness.
Yes. Amen, sister Irina. I love how happy you are. And it is just, it's like radiating off of you. You're glowing.
Thank you.
And so it's interesting to hear. And even up into the end of coach training, that was like kind of a moment, oh, this is, I guess it's not to change my husband, but it
Mhm.
does sound like your husband changed.
A ton.
He changed
A
a ton.
ton. A ton. He, like it's not that he even changed a ton where like he's become a new person or a new man, but he's changed a ton to where like this is the guy I fell in love with. This is the guy I met 13 years ago in San Francisco. Like this is the guy that made me so incredibly happy. I have chills that I said to myself the day I met him, I said, I'm going to marry this guy. That's never happened to me in my life. So I knew right then and there that he was going to make me happy. And that's why I wanted to marry him. And so he's back to that person because I am that happy, kind, compassionate, graceful, like excited, joyous, like empowered, dignified woman.
Oh,
And that's all it is.
you sound like you are the woman you aspire to be now.
Yes, I am. And I want that for everybody in my life. Like I wish I could shout it from the rooftop. I'm already like all over social media. I'm trying my hardest just to spread the word, even if they're just like buy your book and just start with like a bit of knowledge. If they could get a tiny, like a taste of this, then they could change the course of their marriage. They could change the course of their own happiness and, become like, I don't want to say better people because we're all amazing people already, but like better at life, just better at life.
Yeah, have some skills to
Yes.
deal with the challenges as they come up, and still
Yes,
be able to honor
exactly. That's
yourself.
exactly the challenges. I have a, like a disabled child, like I don't want to say disabled, like he's intellectually disabled. And 80% of marriages that have a special needs child end in a divorce. So my odds were so low, 20%. That is so depressing. And it's really like it's not even fair, to be honest. But if I can do it with a disabled child, there's no reason why anybody else cannot do this. There's no reason.
I love that. And it is depressing when you hear something like that. And you could have taken that statistic and said, okay, it's too much. We're not going to
I
make
give
it.
up. Yeah.
How tragic for disabled children, too, that they not only do they have this challenge already, but then they lose their home court advantage of parents
Yeah,
who love each other.
absolutely.
But you're
And then
giving
they
that
have,
to your kids, to
yeah.
your, yeah.
Mhm.
How do you think it's impacted your child that you've done all this?
It's hard to tell because he doesn't talk. I mean, he's not conversational. And so I can't really ask him, like, how do you feel and all that stuff. But I think, I want to believe that he's happier now, that he feels more peace, that he probably feels safer. I want to believe all those things, although I don't have much evidence. But yeah, it just makes me happy for him because whether or not he ever gets married, he has such a great example. Like my mom respected my dad, and my dad loved my mom till the day they died.
Wow. And so you are now a role model for your child, the kind of role model you want to be.
Absolutely. The kind of role model I needed in my life. Yeah.
And you probably haven't seen that terrified look on his face.
No, no, never. Like, I mean, even now, if like one of us raises our voices, like I actually stopped shouting. I stopped raising my voice.
You don't do that
I
anymore?
want to say like a year now. Like I
Really?
almost, it's extremely, extremely rare that I would raise my voice or shout at my husband. My husband, on the other hand, like still, could get a little riled up. So if he raises his voice, I'll just say to him, let's talk about this another time. And I just march myself upstairs to my bedroom and I do some self care, whether it's meditating, listening to music, burning a candle, doing some gua sha, um, even TikToks, like anything to get my mind off of, the disconnect. Like, because guess what? My husband marches up the stairs 20 minutes later and goes, I apologize for shouting at you. That wasn't
Oh
it.
my
That's
gosh.
it. Intimacy restored. Everyone's happy. And my child is not traumatized. That's it.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. That is very
Yeah.
moving. So it sounds
Yes.
like it's mostly a very peaceful home.
It is mostly. Yes. Yes. I would say like 80 to 90% peace, which we almost never had, even like 15%. So
So it's
that's,
flipped. You used to have
yeah,
maybe
huge flip.
10% peace and 90% conflict, and now you have 80,
Exactly.
90% peace and 10% conflict. And that it's just part of being alive, right? There's always going to be something, some little irritant or taxes or whatever, something, right?
Yeah. I
Messy
mean, we're not
houses or
perfect.
yeah, no one's going to be
We're
perfect.
not perfect.
So what is your tip? So someone is listening and she's thinking, we're where you were. We fight all the time. We've tried marriage counseling. We're like two strangers. We're not a team at all. We're terrifying our child. And she wants what you have now, where she gets flowers and he wants to watch a show with her and he comes and apologizes. What's your best tip for her? How should she start?
Um, okay. So first, get yourself a coach. Or actually, I'm sorry, first get the book, The Empowered Wife. If you were to get any of Laura Doyle Doyle's books. The Empowered Wife is the best. It's amazing. It's saved my life. It literally saved my life. So get the book and start implementing little things, and then get a coach, because I truly, truly believe that we need a community, even if it's one person that supports you and doesn't excuse your behavior and doesn't excuse your husband's behavior, but empathizes and says, it's okay, this happened to me too, and this is how I repaired my marriage. So get a coach, reach out for help. Reach out to Laura's website. Like, she's got amazing blogs and resources all over the website. And if you really are like me, where you need to be a part of a community, you need to be a part of something bigger, and you're also stubborn and you have ego problems and you have too much pride, then I urge you to get into coach training, even if you don't want to make it a career change, even if it's just to save your marriage and to get better tools and skills, then I urge you to join coach training, because it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. It's hands down the best thing ever, except for marrying my husband and giving birth to my child. Hands down.
Beautiful. And what do you think you would say to Irina if you could go back in time, tell her what you know now?
Oh, wow. What would I say to me? I would say, look within yourself. Like, stop worrying about what other people are doing. Stop thinking, like, if you could change this person, or if you could have something from this person, that you would be happy. Look within yourself and find happiness for yourself, because no one else in the world is going to give you that joy. And I know people hear this all the time, like, oh, make yourself happy. Only you can make yourself happy. But you give such practical advice about it that, like, no other book in the world actually tells you the steps to make yourself happy. So if I were to say, like, and I'm talking about like 15-year-old Irina, that's how bad I was. My whole entire adulthood, I was in terrible relationships. So if I could tell 15-year-old Irina, is stop worrying about what the other person is doing and start making yourself happy. Start doing self-care, stay on your paper, give yourself grace, give yourself love, give yourself a hug. Stop telling yourself that your trauma is stopping you from being happy. Stop self-diagnosing yourself with all these things like, oh, I'm depressed, so I can't get out of bed. Get out of bed, take a shower, put on some makeup, put on some cute clothes, go get a Starbucks, go get lunch with a girlfriend. It's so hard, but it's also so easy. Anybody can find time to to eat a piece of chocolate, whatever makes you happy. It's so easy to really do self-care. And I know a lot of people just don't believe that they have time or resources or money, but really just make yourself happy, because no one else is in charge of your happiness except for you. That's it. Like that is the bottom line for me.
I love it. I love it. Well, this is it just really sounds like a miracle to me, what you've created in your family. And it was just a joy to I had a front row seat really to a lot of your transformation while you were in coach training.
Yeah.
And I'm just so impressed with what you've accomplished and how you've changed it to become your best self and now have your best marriage and the best family for your son. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I so appreciate you. And I honestly could not be more grateful to you. And I know I say this all the time, but you really saved my life. I mean, I was on the verge of suicide. I did not want to be here because I thought that my life was in shambles. My husband hated me. I had horrible depression. My child was disabled. What was so good about my life? Nothing. Why would I want to live? And then I found you. And you gave me hope, and you gave me tools and skills and easy, practical ways of doing it. I'm so grateful to you. You saved my life. You saved my marriage. You're saving so many women. I'm so grateful to you, Laura. I really am.
Thank you, Irina.
You're so welcome.
Super generous. And I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate your gratitude and your passion, and you standing shoulder to shoulder with me on this mission to end world divorce. Your story is so inspiring. So thank you for sharing it with us about how you did it. So everyone who's listening can do it too.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for having me.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And now it's time for the worst relationship advice of the week award. And the advice that's snagging my sweater this week is from a student who writes, last week I saw this t-shirt displayed as part of an adorable fall outfit in a local shop, and I immediately knew that you would really hate it. I didn't get a picture of the shop display because I didn't want my husband and children to see me take a photo of such a disrespectful shirt. I found a photo of the same shirt online, which she sent to me. And she writes, thank you for all you do. Well, I am grateful to you too for going out of your way to send me this awful t-shirt, which you knew I would hate, and you are right. So I feel so seen and known. Clearly you love me. I feel that. And this is your anonymous shout out and my love coming back at you. So thanks for contributing to the podcast. I just love the support. It helps me so much. So you're probably wondering, what did this embarrassing shirt say? Well, I'll tell you. It said, raising my husband in big letters. And then underneath it, it said, is exhausting. And I have to agree that trying to raise my fully grown and completely capable, competent husband was exhausting. But then again, I figured that was normal because it wasn't just me. Everybody was exhausted from raising their husbands too. So it must be normal and appropriate, right? And okay, this is not strictly relationship advice, but I think of messages like this one on t-shirts as cultural normalizers and validation that husbands are immature and need a lot of correcting. So it's okay to be condescending like that. When, of course, what husbands thrive on best is respect. And this shirt is quite the opposite. I mean, imagine buying this shirt and wearing it with your husband and not having any idea why things are so tense and he's so irritable, right? So for that reason, the message on this t-shirt, raising my husband is exhausting, is the very, very worst relationship advice I have heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'm going to talk about 5 ways to maintain balance in a relationship. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that John's been to a lot of depositions for work. So when I used to bicker with him, he would say, objection, locks foundation, or objection, argumentative.